Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. Welcome and thank you to all who are here. We've had a few minutes for everybody to join us. My name is Dinah Frey. I am the Senior Director of Community Engagement at Developmental Pathways. I am a middle-aged lady with gray glasses and mid-length brown hair. Next slide, please. For those of you who may need subtitles, especially in a different language, you can do so now. The screen instructs you how you can do that. Follow that little squiggly line there, and if you need any assistance, we do have an IT staff on call, and you can indicate that in the Q&A, and then a member of our IT team can assist you. Next slide, please. Before we dive in, we do have a couple of housekeeping items. First is our credo of mutual respect. We do ask that everyone have mutual respect for others, that we honor and respect differences, and that we support mutual accountability and respect. And last, that we actively listen to individuals, families, and community members. We do that and practice that here at Developmental Pathways and ask that for this event as well. Additionally, we are committed to nonpartisan professionalism and the ask that everyone engage respectfully, regardless of your political views. We're all here to learn. And you can submit question through the Q&A feature on Zoom. We'll be answering as many as we can at the end of the presentation. So as a question arises, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A when you have that question come up. Again, please remember that this is a nonpartisan event, and our goal is to help everyone feel informed and prepared to vote, not to tell you who or what to vote for. And then finally, this presentation is being recorded. The recording, along with a summary of the Q&A, will be posted on DP's website, dpcolo.org, in the next couple days after this event, in case you'd like to revisit anything. Next slide, please. And then for today's agenda, we do have lots of things going on. The presentation today will cover the following content. First is voter eligibility and registration, and Douglas County is going to help to answer these questions here. They'll answer questions like who can vote, how to register to vote, what documentation is needed, and where to get help with registration. And then Arapahoe County is going to take how to vote, and this will answer questions like ways to vote via mail-in, in-person, ballot drop-off, electronic options in a few different situations. And then they'll also address common concerns or misconceptions. Then we'll pop back over to Douglas County team, and this will answer questions on ballot confidence. What safeguards exist to ensure ballots are counted? And we'll address common concerns or misconceptions there. And then finally, we will support a voter, and you will hear from Arapahoe County and answer questions on guidance for family members and direct support professionals on how to support someone who wants to vote, what is allowed and what to avoid, and we'll emphasize voter choice and independence. Next slide, please. Now, Developmental Pathways is thrilled to host today's community forum. We've collaborated with our county partners since our voter engagement efforts formally launched in 2020. We are grateful for their ongoing partnership in helping share this important information, and we are grateful for their expertise they bring because it is not our expertise, but we want to make this connection and provide a direct interaction with the experts in our counties. If you can go to the next slide, please. So here joining us today, we have myself, Dinah. Again, I'm the Senior Director of Community Engagement at Developmental Pathways. And then we have Bill Mast. He is the Elections Division Director for the Arapahoe County Clerk and Recorder's Office. He has worked in elections since 2008, overseeing many elections, including 5 presidential elections. He is a certified Colorado elections official and a graduate of the Certified Elections or Registration Administrator, Sarah, I believe, program. And second, we have Jack Twite Jr., and he's the Deputy Director of Elections for the Douglas County Clerk and Recorder's Office. Since joining in 2019, he's helped lead the administration of 16 elections. He's also a certified elections registration administrator, as well as a certified election professional through the state of Colorado. So up next, we have voter eligibility and registration with Douglas County. And the first subject there is going to be taken over by Jack, and he will present here. Take it away, Jack.
Hello, everybody. Dinah, thank you very much for the introduction. So my name is Jack Twite Jr. We're here with Douglas County, middle-aged male. Today I've got a graying beard and a nice short haircut to go along with my suit jacket. I'd like to talk with everybody about voter eligibility today. So we're going to talk about how to register to vote and what you'll need to register to vote. So to be eligible to vote in the state of Colorado, you must be a U.S. citizen who is at least 18 years old. You will have to have lived in Colorado for at least 22 days before the election, and you cannot be serving a term of imprisonment for a felony conviction. Next slide, please. How to register. So we have multiple options for folks who would like to register to vote. You can visit the Secretary of State's website for govotecolorado.gov to register online, or download a printable form that you can fill out and send to your local clerk and recorder. On this form, you would need to enter your name and date of birth. You have to have a Colorado ID card or the last 4 digits of your Social Security number, the address of where you currently live, and a mailing address if it's different than where you live. You need to provide your signature at the bottom of the form, or if you're unable to sign, you can simply mark on the line, such as an X, and have a witness sign at the bottom of the page for you. If you need assistance in registering to vote, you can contact the elections office in the county where you live. If you live in Douglas County, you can visit douglascovotes.gov or give us a call. You can reach us at 303-660-7444. That's 303-660-7444, and we would be happy to answer any questions you'd have. Now I'll hand it back over to Dinah.
Hello and welcome back. Thank you so much, Jack. If anyone has questions on the information that Jack just shared about voter eligibility and registration, please take a moment and submit them using the Zoom's Q&A feature, which is at the bottom of your screen. We will answer as many questions as we can after our presentation concludes. So again, you can ask questions right now in Q&A, and then we'll answer them at the end. Next slide, please. Up next, we will learn about all of the ways you can cast your vote and what accessible options are available here in Colorado from Bill with Arapahoe County. Bill, the screen is yours when you are ready.
Good morning, everybody. Again, I'm Bill Mast, and I'm grateful to be here speaking with all of you today. One of the things that we want to discuss with you all is ways that you can go about participating in the election. And starting off, we're going to talk about voting, the impact of individuals who have power of attorney, guardianship, and supportive living arrangements. So in those situations, only the voter may choose how they want to vote. So living in a care facility or having a guardian doesn't change that. In Colorado, the power of attorney or guardians cannot vote for the voter. So only the voter can make those choices. They may help with tasks, but voters make all of their own personal decisions. Voters must sign their own mail ballot envelopes. For individuals who are unable to sign, they can mark with an X and then have a witness signed by another person. Signature stamps are allowed in Colorado. A voter can use a signature stamp for many reasons, due to age, disability, or other needs. And the signature stamp doesn't need to be witnessed. It serves the same purpose as signature. Care staff may help with physical tasks only, such as reading instructions or help handling materials, but they cannot tell a voter how to vote or fill out a ballot for them. Next slide, please. When you're voting in a mail ballot, voters can use text readers or get assistance from caregivers. Extra time for voters to make decisions is always a nice thing to have when you're voting your mail ballot. Voters can return their ballot by mail or choose to return it through one of our 24-hour secure drop boxes. And caregivers or another person can drop off the voter's ballot. There is a limit on 10 ballots that may be dropped off by one person. Next slide, please. When you're signing your mail ballot, again, voters can sign with an X or another mark, and signature stamps are allowed and do not require a witness. But if you are marking your ballot with an X, you do need to have a witness sign that witness signature on the envelope. Next slide, please. Now, there are other ways that you can receive your ballot. Electronic ballots are available. Electronic accessible ballots are available here in Colorado. Voters may return those ballots electronically if they are blind or have a visual, perceptual, or reading disability that prevents them from reading, marking a ballot to the same degree as a person without a disability, or have a physical disability that makes it hard to hold, mark, or manipulate a ballot. You can access this resource beginning 22 days before an election through Election Day by visiting myballot.coloradosos.gov. This site guides you step by step, but if you have any questions and you are choosing to use this resource, you can always reach out to the county. We're available at 303-795-4511, or you can always email us at elections@arapahoegov.gov. Next slide, please. Other resources that are available in Arapahoe County, we have curbside ballot pickup available. So folks who need a replacement ballot can request one and come pick one up from us without having to come into our office. These are available at select vote centers. Appointments are available online if you visit arapahoevotes.gov. The ballot will be brought out to the voter in their vehicle, but voters must make an appointment and bring a valid ID. Next slide, please. Another voting option is voting in person by visiting one of our voter service and polling centers. These locations are ADA compliant. We have ASL interpretation. We have audio ballots, as well as ballot marking devices, which provide larger text, adjustable contrast, controller paddles for ballot marking devices, allowing for different inputs, as well as the ability to connect using the sip and puff technology. For this election cycle, we'll have 34 locations located throughout Arapahoe County, and you can reach out. You can find out the location that's going to be closest and most convenient to you by visiting arapahoevotes.gov. Next slide, please. There are a lot of common concerns and misconceptions about voting, such as if you make a mistake on your ballot, you don't necessarily need to get a new ballot. You can correct the mistake and vote your ballot that you already have. There's going to be instructions at the top of the page, which will tell you how to go about making those corrections. Additionally, sometimes there's a lot of content on those ballots that we don't always know what things we want to participate in. You don't have to vote every contest on your ballot for it to count. And just vote on the things that you care about or that are important. But one thing that is very important to know is that all ballots must be received by 7 p.m. on election day. So if you are getting close to that time frame, maybe best to have it dropped off in one of our drop boxes or brought into one of our voter service and polling centers. Next slide, please.
My goodness, I apologize for that delay there. My computer was not coming off mute. Thank you so much, Bill, for that information. That was a lot of information for all of you who are listening. Lots of information on accessible voting methods. So if there are any questions on what Bill just covered, please submit them through the Q&A feature. Our presenters will be answering as many questions as they can at the end of this presentation, so keep them coming. Next slide, please. All right, everyone, we are past the halfway point of our presentation. If you need to move or shrug your shoulders a little bit, please do. Up next, we are hearing from Jack again, this time about ballot confidence and what safeguards exist to ensure our elections are safe and ballots are counted. Jack, whenever you're ready.
Thank you, Dinah. And Bill, thank you. So let's take a few moments and discuss Colorado's election security. I'm proud to say that here in Colorado, we set national standards for the election security we have in our mail ballot process. So we're going to look at some safeguards we put in place to make sure your vote is counted exactly like it's supposed to be. A few key security features in Colorado's elections include a secure statewide voter registration database. For those who may have come from another state, you may have found that each clerk and recorder maintains a separate voter registration list, and then they share them across counties. Here in Colorado, we all share the same system that makes sure that one person cannot be registered in multiple places. It provides a single source for all of us with our names, addresses, and your voting history. And we maintain the list every day to be sure it has the latest and most accurate information. Every ballot, when it comes back to us, your envelope goes through a signature verification process before we open it. During the process, we'll compare the signatures on your official ballot return envelope to the signature or signatures you have on file within our registration system at the Colorado Secretary of State's office. This helps us make sure that it's really you who voted and returned your ballot. At the beginning of every election, we complete a public logic and accuracy test to guarantee that the votes that are marked on your ballot count exactly the way they're supposed to. We invite people who have content on the ballot, the people who put questions there. They come in and they test our systems to be sure that when we scan your ballot, the votes are counting exactly as intended. At the close of every election, we also run a risk limiting audit. So we audit every single election here in the state of Colorado. We don't pick and choose which election. Every election gets audited to ensure that the votes that show up on the screen are exactly what's on that piece of paper. We want to make sure every single time your votes are counted correctly. Next slide, please. To do the work, all of our elections are conducted by certified professionals and bipartisan teams of election workers from right here in our own communities. A bipartisan team of judges, election workers, I'll say, are folks who are of minor separate political parties. So we don't have two people from the same party making decisions on their own. For example, if we're working on signature verification and your signature has a concern, a bipartisan team of judges, so for example, maybe a Republican and a Democrat, will sit together and take a look at those together before the decision is made if a question ever arises. We use bipartisan teams in virtually every portion of the election process to guarantee that everything's fair, accurate, and can be audited. You will hear us, Bill and I, for example, refer to our temporary election workers often as election judges. So while they're not a judge in the court system, we like to use that terminology as they are helping make decisions judging the work that we are doing. So you'll often hear judges and election workers used in the same sentence. They mean the same thing for us. Election judges are trained by our full-time staff members at the beginning of every election, even if they've worked one before, and they'll work with folks from other political parties to ensure everything is worked out just fine. Next slide, please. Unfortunately, there is bad information out there that can decrease confidence in what we do in our elections processes. But the truth here is that Colorado's elections are secure. We work very hard to make sure every voter's voice is heard. You can visit our website here in Douglas County, call or email our office anytime if you have questions about your voter registration information or upcoming elections. Our website is douglascovotes.gov. Our phone number is 303-660-7444. And our email address is elections@douglasco.gov. Also on the slideshow, we have a QR code you can scan with a phone or a device and find links to our social media platforms that you can follow and stay informed. I'll now pass it back to Dinah. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was, again, a lot of information on ballot confidence, but I do appreciate it because I trust our system and I appreciate having that information about how we ensure that ballot confidence. If there are any questions on what Bill just covered, please submit them with the Q&A feature. Our presenters will be answering as many questions as they can at the end of the presentation, so keep them coming. Next slide, please. And for our final section of the presentation this morning, Bill from Arapahoe County will join us again to share information on supporting a voter, specifically what family members and direct service providers are able to do and what they should avoid. And with that, I will turn it over to Bill. And I also just mentioned and appreciated Bill for the ballot confidence, and that was Jack. So I apologize for that.
Thank you, Dinah, and thank you, Jack, for all the great information on ballot confidence. We appreciate it here as well. So folks who are supporting voters serve a really valuable role. We support voters in many different ways, but it takes a community sometimes. Things to keep in mind is that all registered voters, regardless of actual or perceived mental or physical abilities, have the right to vote a secret ballot. If a voter's intent can be determined, they must be allowed to cast a ballot in a manner that they choose. And no one but the voter should decide or influence how they vote. Next slide, please. When voting with assistance, caregivers may join voters in the voting booth if they're voting in person, or help voters use a ballot marking device. Caregivers may also act as a witness when the voter is signing with an X or another mark. Other people that can help assist voters, such as when they're voting in a voter service and polling center, are supervisory election judges. They're trained to help voters cast their ballot. They can read ballot information, but are not permitted to interpret what that information means. Next slide, please. So different ways that caregivers can provide support. They can provide voting information and help someone register to vote or update their registration. So all voter registration forms are accessible and available online. Blue Book information and paper notices, is the ballot issue information that counties send out, have information about ballot questions. Candidate information is also available online. Caregivers can provide transportation to and from the polls and can return a mail ballot on behalf of them. The caregivers must not influence how voters vote. Next slide, please.
Hello. All right, everyone. That concludes our presentation. Big thanks to Bill and Jack for joining us this morning to share this valuable information, but we're not done with them yet. They're staying on to help answer as many of the questions that were submitted during the presentation as we can in our remaining time together. Again, the focus of our event is education, so we hope you've learned a lot today and that helped you get ready and feel confident for voting. Now to answer your questions. And so we have Bill and Jack, both of you, can you come off camera and join us? And the first question, what forms of identification are acceptable to register to vote?
So I'll take that one, Bill. Several. And I know that's not the best answer, so let me expand on that just a little bit for everybody. Here in the state of Colorado, valid forms of identification to register to vote. Key to this is a photo ID is not always required, but acceptable forms of identification include a driver's license or state-issued Colorado identification card, U.S. passport or your passport card, military IDs, any other government employee ID that has a photograph. If we have any pilots here, if you're interested to know, a valid FAA pilot's license is an eligible form of ID to vote. But for our audience, other items that would be accepted: a certified U.S. birth certificate, a naturalization document, a Division of Youth Services ID for someone who wants to pre-register to vote before you're 18. Remember, though, if you're pre-registered to vote, you don't get a ballot until you're eligible. Utility bills and bank statements, government check, a paycheck, or other government-issued ID within the previous 60 days that shows your name and address are also eligible documents for registering to vote. Your IDs, for example, your state-issued ID, if you don't have the physical copy, but you have it on the Colorado app, the state of Colorado's app, can be presented digitally at a voter service and polling center on day of, or at your local office to register to vote. And another item to be very, very specific about, everyone, is should you bring a document, say, for example, a bank statement or something along those lines, the address must be a Colorado address. So if you just moved to Colorado, you've been here greater than 22 days, but the identification you bring is still in your former state, that does not count. It has to show your Colorado address. If you lack a copy of your ID, a verifiable ID on the day you vote, if you go to a polling center in person, it does not mean you lose your chance to vote. You will still be allowed to cast a provisional ballot. So you will not be turned away if you forget your ID. I want to be sure everybody's clear on that. We will make sure you have an opportunity to vote, but you'll get what's called a provisional ballot because you didn't have the correct ID with you. I hope that answers the question.
Thank you so much, Jack. The next question, and again, either or both of you might want to answer this one. Can you explain the impact of the recent Supreme Court decision? I'm confused as to what this means.
Yeah, I'm happy to take that one, and Jack may have some thoughts on that one as well. So this is very recent decision. This just happened this week. So the Supreme Court temporarily paused a lower court's order. And what that means is that the lower court had blocked parts of President Trump's election integrity executive order. The court didn't rule that order was illegal, but instead said that didn't rule that executive order was legal or illegal. They didn't make a ruling on the legal status of that. Instead, the court decided that Colorado and other states that had sued to prevent the movement on that executive order hadn't shown concrete enough harm yet to stop the federal government from simply preparing to carry it out. Because of that, the Supreme Court issued a stay this week, which means the federal government can continue to work on the executive order while the case continues. For now, Colorado doesn't need to change anything in how we do our election procedures, and doesn't require that we do anything unless there's additional federal actions taken. So the court did make it clear that should any of the new steps that are taken, such as the Postal Service just adopted some new rules, if they are shown to cause harm and can be demonstrated that way, that states can challenge them. But for now, it's business as usual. So you can expect to get your ballots in the mail and be able to return them to us just as you ever have.
Yes, thank you, Bill. And an additional thought that came to mind as I read through the court's decisions just yesterday is for our voters here in Colorado, you have to do nothing different right now. Nothing different at all. Your county clerk and recorders and your Secretary of State's office, we have you cared for.
I appreciate both of your answers on that and that you've got us all taken care of. So thank you so much for that input on such a new thing. Literally yesterday dropped. Next question. What is the best way to follow up or file a grievance if voting rights and access are denied? Does that vary from one county to the next? And let me know if you'd like me to reread that one.
No, I think we heard you, Dinah. So there's a couple different ways that folks can share concerns where voting rights might have been restricted or perceived as being restricted. One of the best ways to kind of navigate that, though, as things are occurring, is to reach out to your county. There are formal complaint processes, but if you reach out to your county directly, we can help address them immediately and also help you navigate that complaint process if it's something that needs to be escalated through the state or other process.
Jack, did you have anything to add? You had come off mute earlier.
No, I think Bill did a fantastic job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you both. The next question, how to register to vote and how to submit ballot while being disabled and in the address confidentiality program. Are mail-in ballots going to be taken away at some point or always offered for someone like me?
So that's a challenging one, and I'm happy to jump in and address it. And it goes along with how we responded to the question about the recent Supreme Court stay on those mail balloting rules. Right now, nothing is changing with individuals' eligibility to receive ballots through the mail. And that we don't perceive that that's going to change at any time in the near future. So folks who are in that address confidentiality program can expect to still receive their mail ballot materials through that process and have their safety and security protected as well as they participate in the voting process and going on.
And in addition, for anyone in the address confidentiality program, please, if you have additional detailed questions, feel free to reach out to your local clerk and recorder's office. Every clerk and recorder office in the state of Colorado has a dedicated address confidentiality program liaison who can assist you with any voter-related questions.
Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you both. Do you have to fill the bubble in without going outside the lines? Is that important in a ballot? Also, how do you make sure your thing is folded and in the envelope the right direction?
Bill, I'll jump on this one. This is one of my favorite topics. I rarely fill out my oval perfectly on my ballot. So I do understand we will be outside the lines, and that's okay. That is perfectly fine. What we do here in Colorado is we train our election judges to review what we would call those marks on the ballots for anything that looks ambiguous, anything that looks a little off. And they go through a very specific training called a voter intent training. So they understand how to look at the marks on a ballot and to make sure your vote counts the way you intended it to. So it's going to be close and it's going to be fairly obvious who you intended to vote for or whether you voted yes or no for something. We'll know, and it's okay. And if you make an error, as Bill mentioned earlier, There are instructions that'll be at the top of your ballot how to correct that so you don't have to get a brand new ballot if you accidentally vote one way and meant to vote another. In addition, you mentioned in the question, what happens, for example, if I fold my ballot a different way and cram it in the envelope? That's okay too, because once your signature is verified and your ballot envelope continues through the process, election judges are going to get that ballot out of the envelope and they're going to set it in the right order to be scanned and your votes get counted.
Thank you. Up next, is there a cognitive level at which it would be questionable legally for the caregiver to help the supported person to vote? If so, how would that be determined?
My answer to that would be there isn't in the state of Colorado. And therefore, it is your right to vote. So if any of us have varying levels of cognitive ability, that's okay. Key to this is that caregivers cannot and should not ever make the decision for you. These are your decisions to make, not theirs. They'll have their own ballot to vote if they're an eligible voter. You can make your vote. And if they help you, as long as they're doing filling out the ballot based on your wishes, that is perfectly acceptable.
Thank you. Can an individual participate in an election if they're unable to make any selections on their own due to intellectual disability? So I think it goes to that last question a bit. In other words, the person helping would be acting on their as their proxy. And thank you, Jack.
Yep, similar to, very same answer essentially. You can have somebody help you. Perfectly acceptable and legal. If you can bring somebody with you to a voter service and polling center, and they can, in fact, help you at the booth, filling out the ballot in person if you choose that method as well.
Thank you. Up next, how can service providers and day programs help with neutral voter engagement efforts? Bill.
I'll jump in and take one and at least speak for Arapahoe County. So one of the ways that you can help is to, if you want to serve in that space and assist voters, you reach out to us. We have a number of different ways we can partner with you. If you have caregivers or individuals who want to serve as election judges, those election workers that Jack spoke about earlier. Misspeaking. We have lots of opportunities for folks to serve in those capacities, but we also partner with groups, big and small, to help with those efforts. And we host public tours. So if folks want to understand the voting process, not just from an individual standpoint, how they participate, but how things work when they come back to us for processing and counting, going through that voter intent review, as Jack spoke about a few minutes ago. Okay. People can come and schedule public tours with us and come see our facilities and see the ballots as they go through the process. If it's earlier in the process, we have public testing that goes on ahead of an election cycle. And individuals can come in and see those steps. So everywhere along the way, if there's an opportunity to learn or engage, ask questions, we want to be here to help you with that process, both with caregivers and voters.
Thank you, Bill. Jack, is it the same for you in Douglas County?
Yeah. Very similar, yes.
Then the next question, where can individuals receive information about candidates in languages they can understand to make an informed decision about each candidate?
So that's a tough one. Not all candidates have a large presence out on the web, and that's usually the direction we would point folks to. In elections like we're having coming up here in 2026, when you have partisan contests, if a candidate itself doesn't have a website that they maintain that shares information about themselves, we would direct folks to their parties. So one of the major parties or minor parties. depending on whom they're representing. In nonpartisan contests, we do try and make information available for those nonpartisan candidates, say for cities or school boards, available if those candidates do have websites available. Otherwise, we can direct them towards the entity that they're going to be representing or hope to be representing in the future, that city or that school district.
And would it be the same for ballot measures instead of just candidates? Or is there other languages to get information about ballot measures?
Yeah, I'll speak to that one as well. So for Arapahoe, visiting our website, arapahoevotes.gov, is always the great place to start. If there's information that's available out there, either for those ballot measures or candidates, including the blue book information that the state prepares and distributes, as well as any of the ballot issue notices, which the jurisdictions compile and send in to us, and then we mail out to voters. Copies of those are going to be available, including, at least in Arapahoe, English and Spanish translations.
Thank you. And up next, how can individuals with disabilities get involved with the elections process? We're wondering if it might be related to volunteering or paid opportunities to support their community.
I would encourage folks to reach out to the local clerk and recorder's office, their elections divisions, through the websites that Bill and I have provided. Great places to start, or contact the local office through the phone, and we'd be happy to help folks get information they would need to perhaps be one of our election judges or understand other volunteer opportunities.
Thank you. And then the question, I think you already answered it, but I'll put it out here anyway. Where can we learn more about what measures will be on the ballot?
So, great question. One of the things that happens in Colorado is we don't ourselves know always what the ballot content's going to be up until about 60 days prior to the election. And so for the upcoming election, we're not going to know what content's getting sent to us until it's certified here on the 4th of September. Once that happens, we're going to be rushing through a process on ballot programming to make sure we can get ballots out to voters in all the languages that we're required to. But we'll also post sample ballots on our websites. Those sample ballots will have all of the ballot questions in order in the same way that they're going to appear for you when you get your official ballots in the mail. So that's a great place to look for what's going to be on your ballot for a specific area, or city, or school districts in the state.
Okay. Thank you. That is the end of our questions that we have. So again, if you did have another question that we have not answered, or actually that Bill and Jack have not answered, since I've done nothing to answer questions today, you're welcome. But if you have any outstanding questions, please put them in the Q&A or give us that phone call. And otherwise, we are done on that. So we've got about 30 seconds to be putting something into the Q&A or the chat. Otherwise, we're going to wrap this up. We can go to that next slide. And if another question comes in, we'll jump back. But thank you so much. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you, Bill and Jack, for such great information and answering so many questions that have come in, detailed things for individuals. We really appreciate that. Thank you for joining us. If you do have further questions or want to connect with the teams afterwards, here's the information from each county, Arapahoe and Douglas County. We thank you both for being here. You can also call Developmental Pathways. Our main line is 303-360-6600. I'm looking, I don't see any other Q&A questions that have come in. So we can go to the next slide. Thank you so much for your time, for coming today, for listening, and for being interested in voting. We really do hope that this leads you to vote and to go out and do the research and make your informed decisions come November. Thank you so very much.